like try and come up and kind of try and get there, but so far they haven't been able to.
Nope. Thankfully, we have one in League of Legends. There's one over in StarCraft as well. It's like the two biggest esports here in Korea. We're covered when it comes to the absolute icons and the titans at the top. So thankfully, we get to see him play here today. Not going to be on the bench this time around, as we are in pick and ban for game number 1. And let's just see how NONGSHIM are going to deal with it and how T1 are going to deal with what is going to be a pretty scary bottom lane, although Gumayushi is really, really good. So maybe we'll see it be just a wash. We'll have to find out. Orianna and TF already being banned away. Samira taken away from Docdom, I think is very interesting, as Aphelios is going to be banned on the red side.
So that signals to me that NONGSHIM thinks that if they leave the Aphelios open, T1 is going to first pick it, which, you know, obviously Gumayushi can do. Because otherwise I see that there would be no reason for NONGSHIM to ban that, provided like how good Docdom really is. From T1 here, I'd like to see them, especially for the first match, make sure that they have some strong lanes, that they put Zeus in a comfortable position, because this is someone who literally turned 17 last Sunday, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was only a few days ago.
Yeah, he's literally like just reached his eligibility, and now there we go. There's the team over. Gotta get into the good mindset. But it's something that like you can't understate the pressure on this player. And regardless, like they all look happy, right? They all look fine as they're looking the Kai'Sa, but there's a lot of pressure on T1 here.
Oh, absolutely. As NONGSHIM are going to lock away the Xayah. Xayah into Kai'Sa has been something that we've absolutely adopted from the LPL. And there is the Udyr once again. Of course, Peanut was the man that had the yakety sax played to him at the very end of that game, having to hop over the wall a couple of times and forcing Pyosik to run back and forth. But the Udyr did win that game, and Peanuts picked it up. Have to see how it's going to go, because I feel like it does need a composition around it, and you do need to be able to play towards the Udyr's strengths to make him work. We'll see what they do have. Is Zeus going to be immediately on Gnar duty? That's really sad, but that's fine. They are going to first pick that one. We've seen Gnar have a lot more success in the later weeks rather than the earlier ones, although I still don't think that that's actually a good pick, because that's an Ezreal.
This will be very, very on point. Yeah, there we go, T1. So this is really interesting, because what they're doing here is they're delaying the jungle pick, allowing NONGSHIM to maybe limit whatever Elam is going to be able to do. And they're putting a lot of importance in seeing what is NONGSHIM going to pick in the support lane or in the support role as well. I think that double blinding your two solo laners here as T1 says a lot about like how you want to play the game. It means that you want to secure like a strong enough jungle matchup, as well as particularly like a really good support matchup, so that you can actually play through Gumayushi. And then the Gnar pick makes a lot of sense, because, you know, you're just going to leave him, and you know he's probably going to be fine. And Zeus has played a lot of Gnar. It's one of his most played champions in solo queue, so he's definitely well-versed on the pick.
We'll see what carrier is going to have banned towards him. I imagine support bans should be coming in here, unless they want to limit that jungle pool even further.
But what do you ban against carrier?
Well, I mean, that's a good point. I think, you know, having the Seraphine up and available and already having decent frontline on T1 with the Gnar, Seraphine could be an option if Ellen wants to go towards a tankier jungler. And definitely would be a devastating lane to go up against here for NONGSHIM, who have already locked down a pretty strong one themselves.
I agree. I think the Seraphine does have the issue that it's very good secondary initiation, but you would be you would need a jungler that can hard engage for you, right? Because NONGSHIM already has like a backline that is so hard to get to. Xayah and Fresh, the combination of Featherstorm plus the Lantern plus the Flay and the box mean that it's incredibly hard for you to get on Docdom. And I'm expecting T1 to already like kind of be looking at how can we deal with this, because there's a couple of ways you can either try and, you know, get a backline access somehow. Of course, the Streamer Shuffle and a Kai'Sa dive combined with Gnar is a possibility, but really depends. You see the Jarvan getting
actually, I love this. I love this because it's exactly what you're talking about, right? Deny as much hard engage from the jungle as you can. These are the two, right, that are definitely up there. I think Hecarim does exist in that sphere as well, but I really do like the line of thinking as Docdom now thinking about what he wants to take away for one of his solo lanes. I imagine Rich's pick might come in here, but we'll see what he is actually going to be put on.
Aatrox is open.
Scary.
This would be more likely. I would not be a huge fan of this.
No.
I think that's a really big flip that you take. This is basically to me saying, if Zeus can play the Gnar well, then you're not going to have a really good time. Like, if you make a mistake, or if Peanut pays a lot of attention to topside, then you can punish the Gnar pick, especially when he's in mini form. But that is not the matchup that I would have gone for, I think. Just slap him on. You have an amazing front-to-back team fight already. Let's kind of lean into that as we get the Lilia here.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go down that route instead. It means that Kerry is more likely to be on something a little bit more tanky and engagey in his support position, and that is about as tanky and engagey as you can get as the Nautilus is being considered. Tanky and engagey as well is good old Leona, and we'll see which one he's actually going to decide on. 5 seconds to go before he locks that in. And that is going to be the case. So Leona and the Kai'Sa on the bottom side of the map, and that's going to allow Lilia to be in the jungle and should help out for the top lane 2v2. Not necessarily a large amount of hard engage, but they should be able to put on a fair bit of pressure there towards the top side.
And we get the Victor lock in here. So I really like NONGSHIM's team composition besides the Renekton, right? I think that if you lock in an Ornn there, all of a sudden you get like a super cohesive front-to-back team fight. You have the Victor, you have double front line. Because now I feel like their engage is going to be a lot harder. Now, T1, of course, is going to engage in them. That's something that we said that might be a problem for them. Leona single-handedly solves that problem. And the backline dive that T1 has here is really, really impressive. But if I look at NONGSHIM, like, there's going to be a point at the game where no matter how far behind they are, they're going to be relevant, right? Like, this is a comp with a lot of inevitability. Even if Rich has a really rough laning phase, which recently has been a little bit of a problem,
Yeah.
I still personally feel like T1 here should have an edge, especially considering how comfortable the plays that they have looked on these champions.
I think when you're talking about the amount of skill that you have on the picks that you can see right here, not to mention the fact that Kai'Sa is busted at the moment.
Oh yeah.
This composition does look good, but I'm glad that you did mention that there is a lot of power on the side of NONGSHIM. I think the Renekton's just it's mind-boggling, right? Imagine Gangplank. Imagine Gangplank in this position.
Yeah.
Oh my god, he hard smashes the lane and also provides peel with his cannon barrage, global pressure with the cannon barrage. Like, an incredible pick. Also, Rich is pretty good at the champion. Camille also fits quite nicely. You can run 4-1 in that case, and they have a great 4 as wave clear with the Victor, of course.
Yeah.
There are so many options that would not have been Renekton in this case. But we'll just have to see. Maybe Rich has got something up his sleeve that he wants to prove as we hop on the Rift for game number 1 and Chronicler's debut cast and Zeus' debut game. Wow, what a day of debuts.
A lot of debuts. As we see neither team really wanting to immediately go crazy here, which is nice, gives you and me some time to get acquainted.
Yep, I actually just assumed that nothing was going to happen.
Yeah, that was probably the right call. I did not. Faker with a little bit of a throwback here, gone for the lethal tempo. We've recently seen more like the Comet in particular.
Yeah.
Lethal tempo, of course, a good old team fighting tool.
Yeah, it was more of that late game choice. You were talking about this the other day, actually. The fact that we've not seen quite as much lethal tempo recently. But, Faker is he's definitely a veteran of the Azir. And so he may as well pick that one up for himself. Baron, by the way, is spawning in 18 minutes and 40 seconds. Not sure why we have that timer up there right now. I think everyone knows that it's 20 minutes at this point, but that's fine. Just got to make sure that we know when the Baron's coming. Maybe this is the LCK informing us that, yes, in fact, this is going to be a slow early game. As the T1 rookies, here is the LCK debut of Zeus. And, oh my goodness, 31st of January, 2004.
Yeah.
If there's anything that's going to make me feel old, it's going to be it's going to be a birth date like that.
Yeah. That is very young. When I was 17, I would not have been ready to play a really high stakes game of League of Legends, and
I was almost 17 when he was born.
Yeah.
I was 16. I was literally 16 when he was born.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a certified boomer status.
I am absolutely a boomer. And I wear the badge with pride. As Hook is going to go wide here towards the bottom side of the map. Dr. and Kellen still just trying to take control of the lane. As you saw, the Xayah stats certainly showing why we've been seeing a lot of Xayah picked into the Kai'Sa. As Peanut just mowing through his jungle. Both of these junglers actually going pretty quickly as LM wanting to try and deny this, and Peanut has actually no idea as he kites his way in. There's the watch out Eep that he has to definitely watch out for. And this is going to be a steal. Peanut already on the back foot. This could be disastrous.
Oh, he's going to go in. Is he?
Yeah.
No, he's... Oh, maybe.
Gets the ward
Alan doesn't
down.
have smite.
Yeah, no smite available, but watch out. Eep does enough damage, apparently. Oh, no.
Oh, Alan, this is bullying.
This is not very fair at all. As you can see, Rich actually being pretty aggressive onto Zeus. I'm going to probably say Zeus a couple of times.
That's okay.
Because sometimes I just read, you know? And,
yeah. No, I get it. I get it.
It's problematic.
So let's dive into that a little bit, because the fact that Udyr, like one of his biggest strengths is the clear speed that he has throughout every stage of the game. It's also the reason why his Phoenix speed or Phoenix stance is going to get nerfed on 11.3. And thus far, we haven't really seen teams trying to capitalize and kind of deal with that. Now, Lilia's clear speed early on is also exceptional. And thanks to the priority that Zeus and Faker had, Alan could just walk up and he knew like there's nothing that can happen. If Bay or Rich try to roam, my lanes will immediately punish them. And already, nice little start here for T1.
Yeah, LM definitely doing well. You can see bottom side certainly doing okay for NONGSHIM, which is what we came to expect. I think this is going to be a battle of, you know, T1 solo laners probably being stronger, especially in the laning phase. But NONGSHIM being able to rely on the hard carry potential of good old Dr. and Kellen as well, especially with Kellen's Thresh here. His Thresh has just been so good this season. So look out for them as the game goes on. But right now, like you say, it's a pretty good start for T1. Peanut not wanting to be outdone. He's just going to take some rocks away from LM where he can. His puppy's going down, and he will take some time on his chicken camp. So this one should be a decent steal for Peanut to try and catch back up. But he's already falling a little bit behind.
Is he going to repeat it? Does he get to the brush? Oh, he doesn't.
Oh no. LM spots him out, but does move on away as now Bay. He's done a fair bit of damage to Faker here, as you can see, but both of them gone through all of their mana. Faker through his health bar as well. But no harm, no foul. Should be able to make it out. As Dr. just going to pull some feathers back. Gumayushi taking a bit of damage there, but not really any issues either. So have a look at how this continues to go on as Rich thinking about a back or maybe just catching this wave as Zeus is relentlessly pushing towards him.
Yeah, Renekton into Gnar, and then also, yeah, I'm gonna really follow you here, as you said earlier. Not a huge fan of it while Faker shoves in here, because it just seems like there's so many better options, and if you do go for the Renekton here, then I do want to see attention towards that. Well, like the Victor and the Xayah and Thresh are very self-sufficient. We can see how self-sufficient with Dr. and Callan starting off really well here. Faker goes in.
Yep, gets the flash out of Bay. Fantastic trade. And Ellen didn't even need to show himself either if he didn't want to. So high value in the mid lane as Faker's looking angry. He had a rest last week, you know. Now he's come back with a vengeance. Try and get towards that 600th game. He's hoping to end this with 599 because that means a 2-0. And he's also hoping that T1 wins those two games as well. 0-2, definitely not the way you want to go.
That is as very painful, because that is, of course, what happened last week when they played against Afrika. And we see now a roam from Callan here. And I feel like Peanut is pretty vengeful, Atlas. Like, he got his red stolen, and he's permanently looking. But we do see the pings going down, because they, of course, know with the vision placed in the bot side jungle and them gone for so long that something is going on. Something fishy is happening.
I don't know whether Kellen has been spotted on exactly this brush, as Carrier thinking about coming through. Look, should be the Rift Scuttler lockdown for Peanut as Carrier face checks. Hook is going to miss onto Ellen, though, as Kellen's in a lot of trouble. Faker doesn't have the Emperor's Divide, but they're not going to need it. That's going to be Zeus picking up first blood. Welcome to the LCK, my friend. Able to grab first blood. Faker picks up the next one, and NONGSHIM find themselves well and truly on the back foot.
And I'm fairly certain that T1 knew exactly where Callan was, even though they had no vision of him, because the way that Carrier walked in, immediately used his W, and had like the auto reset ready. Like, I know you're there, Kellen, and just gonna go straight on top of him. The problem there was that NONGSHIM couldn't really hard commit on that fight because even though Rich had priority, the fact that Zeus had his Narbar ready meant that if you actually go for a fight, like somewhere in the corridors of those jungle, you're gonna get slammed to the wall.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just an inopportune move for NONGSHIM. Felt a little bit like desperation as well, where Peanut's like, well, I'm behind. I need to try and do everything that I can to try and get this back in my favor. This is going to be the Drake just delivered over to NONGSHIM. They did have priority, and of course, Kai'Sa was going for a reset, so no ability to actually contest. So that's going to be good news. Ocean's going to be the next one, and then we'll have a Cloud Soul, as per usual.
I'm certain Carrier knows. Like, look at how he moves in here. Like, he's ready. He sees it coming. And then they think about going in, but there's also a little bit of miscommunication because I don't think Bay had to die there. Like, both Peanut and Rich already backed off, and then Bay just keeps, like, walking forward for a little bit too long. That was definitely first blood, but it could have not been a second kill as well.
And the second kill, I think, is actually really important because that puts Faker in a massively winning position in the mid lane as well. On his Azir, that's only going to get more difficult to deal with. And like you mentioned, he's got the lethal tempo, which does scale a lot better than that of the Comet variety. So scary stuff. And yep, your first.
But we're gonna put a pin in that because I feel like the level of gameplay that we're going to be watching here is a little more relevant.
Yeah, probably a little bit higher.
I mean, don't stretch it, right? Like,
yeah,
it's only Fakers. Like, he hasn't played 600 games yet.
No, that's true. That's true. This is only a 597 gamer right now.
Yeah, right.
Oh man, not impressed. Not yet.
But as you were pointing out before we got into the pause, the kill going to Faker is indeed very relevant. Even though this lineup will have an insane amount of damage, you know, just through the virtue of their champions, I do feel like Faker, over the course of his career, has consistently shown that every resource that you give him, he kind of uses multiplicatively. So, low resources means good Faker, and then high resources can mean really, really good Faker. So, very happy with that. We'll also accelerate his item spike, and Azir, of course, especially with the lethal tempo build, very reliant as Zeus goes in here.
Yeah, he's looking for Rich right now. Good ward in that brush to make sure that Rich can't soak any of that damage. He loses half of his health bar for free, and as the wave is going to be pushing into him, so the Renekton's not going to lose out on too much.
That little dodge, the Call the Meek as well. Like, that makes me happy. Also signed to Rich. Like, I don't know, man.
This guy's
I don't know about the
deal.
Renekton.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know about the Renekton anyway. I don't think it... Yeah, it wouldn't matter who he was playing against, to be perfectly honest. I don't really like that decision. Reminds me a little bit of DRX's drafts recently, which have been like, just pick bad top lane matchups and do nothing about it. And it just hasn't really been working. So I'm hoping that this sees the punishment that it deserves. And we're going to see like that decision not made. Good play back there, but Kellen's still dead. Ellen comes in, steals that one away. And Dr. He's just going to walk this one out. Does still have Featherstorm, so he's not dying anytime soon. But still, 3-0 now for T1. This is looking clean.
It really is, and this is something that we've seen T1 do before. Well, for me, the big test is going to be is how well can they now accelerate this lead and kind of keep it together, because that has been their problem, right? Even though Doctam's still sitting on a 20 CS lead, the continuous pushing does have a price if you're not warding diligently. Peanut was in the general area, but with the hard engage of Leone, you really gotta like kind of take into account that you're gonna die very, very quickly.
Yes. Well, Faker over here loses his control ward, but otherwise he's going to be A-okay. Peanut moves his way in. He's got a far too cool a skin. Like, I don't like this one very much.
You want Goofy.
Yeah, I know. Where is it? As, okay. Faker just going to get the flash before even using the Emperor's Divide. Which means Bay's basically dead whenever Faker wants. And like you were saying, like, Faker with resources, that's real scary. Faker with agency that you can't do anything about, that's terrifying. And now he's got turret plates as well. Oh god. This is This is definitely a series for Faker to have his 600th game opportunity. As Zeus possibly in trouble here as Peanut's trying to lock him down. The Narbar coming on through. Really good game sense from Zeus to make sure that he can get towards Faker, who flashes in for his divine. Zeus is still alive, and they're asleep. It's a double kill for the Lilia. And pack it up, boys. We're going to game 2, T1, 1-0. All right.
Oh, what an absolute tragedy for NONGSHIM RedForce. They try to make the play on Zeus there, but oh, the teleport advantage utilized so well. Zeus also with the presence of mind to kite back into the rest of his team. This is as bad as it gets, honestly, though. And look here, there's no vision. There's no support.
Oh, so sick.
Yeah. Okay, so you know what we were saying earlier about T1, you know, keeping it together so far?
100%.
You know, I really appreciate that they showed this kind of level of gameplay in my debut game. It was really nice of them. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think someone obviously, you know, messaged over to, you know, our mate Joe Mar, and we were like, hey man, so it's Chronicles' first game. Can we just like, can we get Faker back out? Can Zeus debut as well, please? That'd be really cool. Like, I think he deserves this. And yeah, and Joe was just like, yeah, no, that sounds great, man.
Of course, yeah. You know.
Definitely wasn't what happened, by the way.
Absolutely not.
I think it's probably more of a professional decision, but
I'd say so, yeah.
Yep. Anyway, we'll see whether this does mean that it's curtains, because of course it's not. I went a little bit overboard there, but it is still a 3,000 gold lead with Tier 1's composition scaling very, very well, like you say. And it's a Lilia completely destroying an Udyr in the jungle. As Peanut's trying to catch himself back up with a gank towards the bottom side that Gumayusi and Keria seem to have absolutely no interest in. As Faker's roaming down as well. That's going to be the stun from Keria. Peanut taking a bit of damage from that Void Seeker as the hook's going to go wide. And this is just a free Drake over to T1.
Yeah, I'm actually happy that NONGSHIM don't like try to commit harder there, because Bay can't move, right? Like, he's locked in the lane, he can't do anything because of, well, thank you, Faker. Because of that, like if he's even an inch more forward, he dies. If Keria roams, he dies. And the item spikes that have already been hit, with Faker hitting his Sultan boots as well as Leandries, means that trying to fight into that requires you to have like such a good angle, and you just don't. Right? Like if you maybe had something that could hard engage or something that could reliably get something done there, if Keria or Guma makes a mistake and they get caught, then you can try to look for the play. But NONGSHIM look for it, they recognize, okay, T1's not making an error, gonna leave it at that.
Yeah, and look, at this state of the game as well, you can understand why they're playing a little bit more reserved, because this is certainly going to be a game that they're going to have to try and pick up the pieces of, and whether they can even do that is going to be a worry. And I love that when we were talking about this game earlier on, we were like, the bottom lane for NONGSHIM are really good. The rest of the map has to try and meet them at that level, and that's exactly what we're seeing, right? We're seeing what the problems are for NONGSHIM, and the problems are not Dokdam. Dokdam is super good, but unfortunately, the rest of his teammates just not really standing up there with him. Outside of, you know, the CS being okay. The 5 kills, really bad news, but, you know, at least Rich is within touching distance. Bay was also ahead in farm before he went for that reset. So that's definitely good news. But these turret plates and, you know, the amount of control that T1 has had, that's where it gets scary.
And that's the main thing that I want to see as, oh, LM. Oh, you're making a lot of people very happy there, as he's picked up the Moonstone. Probably going to go into Zhonya's next. I don't even know if he'll go for the Moon stuff as well, but because first you got to get the Zhonya's right. But with how much gold they've been able to pick up thus far, they're probably fine. But what I want to see from T1 now is actually keep discipline and keep converting these leads, because this has happened before, but T1 has then had the tendency to like make very questionable plays. Thus far, does not look like they're doing that at all. They're pushing the envelope constantly as Keria goes in.
Whoa, the big old flash forward as there's the Gravity Storm. Does do decently, but the stun down, and that is a very, very dead Bay. The Watch Out Eep doesn't necessarily work, but thankfully Solar Flare stuns for about 3 trillion years. And so that is definitely a dead Victor. On the bottom side of the map, though, Dokdam is able to push through and grab himself that outer turret. Gumayusi just sitting here, waiting to pick up this wave. Let's see whether he's actually going to go aggressive. Absolutely not, because that is a very strong Xayah towards the bottom side.
And already the map control for T1 is insane, right? Because Zeus can just proxy farm the wave there. Rich has no choice but to back, because one of two things happens. Either you try to contest and you don't have any vision, you just saw LM and Carrier there, and then you probably die, so he just has to take the back. Nothing you can really do, and it already feels like this is the T1 that people have expected since the start of the split, right? Like, you see these names, and this is kind of what we've been looking for.
Yeah, and this is what we saw actually in the first week, right? There was a lot of people that were getting excited about this squad as Zeus just clears out the wave with his ultimate. I like that, you know, just go in. It's on a very short
Get
cooldown.
the creepies.
Yeah, throw them red dots away and then go back home. As we're gonna see this once again. This is just classic Carrier. Just he's going in, guys. It's just what he does.
Yeah, I'd like to say something about this, but I think we all saw what happened. Like,
Yeah, right.
like, Bay is there, and unfortunately there was a ton of hard engage. And losing control of the map with this composition from NONGSHIM is a really big problem, because yes, the wave clear is really good, but because they only have they have pick potential, right, in the form of a hook, and that's pretty much it, right? Like, that's kind of a problem, considering the amount of mobility and power and hard engage that is available from T1. And NONGSHIM are still inevitably going to reach a point where engaging on them from T1's perspective is going to be really, really hard, right? Because the kiteback potential trying to fight into a choke against Victor, Zaya in the late game is never going to work. But what T1 is doing right now is snowballing the rest of the map to an extent that even if you do take a bad team fight, which, considering T1's track record thus far, might still happen, even though right now it doesn't look that likely, you're still fine.
Okay. You know, just taking a lot of free damage. It's going to be okay. Has a lantern. As another Solar Flare lands, Dr. Arm has to Featherstorm, Flash, Cleanse, everything. All of the buttons now on cooldown. And we're moving towards a Mountain Drake that's going to be up in 10 seconds time. And the Zaya, she ain't fighting.
No. And that's also, you know, your Flash gone. And it's so hard for NONGSHIM, because now you're just bleeding objective left and right. You're really getting out-tempoed, and Zeus can just make plays like this and not get punished. Because again, they have no vision, right? Like, never mind, they're the control ward there, but still, even that's even worse. Even with the vision, they can't really do anything. They can't really get anything going, and Faker can just solo the Drake, and you were kind of saying it in Just Atlas, but this does feel like the type of game whereas NONGSHIM just like, well then.
What's happening in game number 2? Oh,
yeah.
Guys, imagine if we had Gangplank in this game. Maybe it would have been better.
You know, I know how everyone loves to rag on Renekton, and I don't even like it. I don't think it was a good pick, but I don't think the Renekton here was the pick. I think I'd like to flip it around. I think T1 is a team that seemingly, at least for this game, is looking much more like the team that we expected. They're making incredibly proactive plays. They're using their early game priority in a way to kind of hold Peanut down. And yes, he's Udyr. He's still 20 farm up. But the lack of early agency that NONGSHIM had has snowballed so incredibly quickly into mid and bot lane. Out is down. 2 Drakes already given up. Rift Herald's given up. And just a general lack of control, constant bleeding of objectives and summoners, and NONGSHIM just can't really do anything.
We'll see where they can turn it. Of course, they do have, like you say, decent kiteback potential, things like that. Dr. Arm still exists. It's a 4,000 gold lead, nothing insurmountable, but I just feel like this is a T1 that is looking so much cleaner, and it feels like, I don't know, this is one of those games where they're just trying to tell everyone, like, hey, stop being mean. Yes, we lost to Afrika, but I think Afrika were overperforming in that series. That was not necessarily, you know, T1 looking absolutely terrible and then a bad team beating them. It was Afrika just looking stronger than they have all season long, in my personal opinion.
Yeah,
Dread especially, right?
Yeah,
like, he played very, very well.
Yeah.
But this is a very different roster from T1, and maybe this is more like what we're going to see as the year goes on, because there has been a decent amount of experimentation, and spring season is certainly a time where you can do that.
And T1 in general, they look super good. They're constantly playing forward, they're constantly pushing. But this is the part of the game where this is the real litmus test for me, right? Because this is where T1 previously kind of fell apart. They were overextended, went for a play that didn't work out. Because now the obvious objectives are gone. So besides the top lane turret that inevitably is going to fall very rapidly, You now have two options as T1. You can try and make aggressive plays by really choking out the jungle and denying more and more resources. Rich, you are not allowed to be there, my man.
Well, I mean, he does have a turret, theoretically, but let's see whether that does anything at all, as the tower's going to go down, and they're not going to go after the Renekton. So it looks like it's the objective play rather than the Crocodile play. And Bay's down here towards the bottom side, actually getting some decent damage on the inner turret as Peanut comes around, looks for carrier. And there's the Solar Flare going completely wide.
Two teleports available.
Let's see whether they actually go for anything. It looks like the answer is going to be no, as the bowling ball just flies on past. Not looking like a strike at this stage.
I feel
T1
like
moving up.
Yeah, I feel like T1 could have punished Rich there, but the teleport was available from Bay, and they didn't have full control of the jungle. So maybe they're like, you know, don't necessarily need to push it here, and considering their track record in recent games, so I can't blame them, as Peanut is a very, very, very fast bear slash tiger slash, you know, phoenix.
Man, bear, tiger, phoenix.
Yeah, exactly. No goofy skin though.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame. We can't use all of our fun names.
Keep coming back to that. Yeah, I mean that's the real reason why I watch the LCK. In my personal experience, at least. You know, League of Legends is fun and all, but
I don't know what Peanut's doing. He's just sort of hanging around, being frustrating.
He's clearing waves.
Yeah, proxy farming.
Yeah.
Wanting to make sure he gets to his items as quickly as possible. Don't blame him.
They have no, like, T1 has no vision on the top side of the map, right? So that looks really troll because it looks like you can hard engage, but T1 are not going to risk it. But it does look very funny if you know where everyone is on the map.
Yep.
Game has slowed it down a little bit, and this is to me T1 just saying, like, guys, we're going to play this, no flips, no outs, just play for Mountain Soul and keep it at that.
Oh, carrier, he doesn't want that at all as he gets flayed back. Eclipse is going to go off as the teleport does come through. Bay in the backline quite nicely, but Rich immediately has to get out, and Faker does a lot of damage at Conquering Sands. Who's terrifying as, oh, that was not the time to Blade Caller. Doctom does manage to flash out, but in goes Gumayushi, and Elam's going to take a nap underneath this turret. Does go golden, that should try and keep him alive, but he's still going to be dead. And that is another engage. The re-engage towards the top side. Bay is going to go down immediately. Peanut now running for the hills. The Crocodile going to be in trouble. And the sleep finally does come down. I actually thought Ellen used that before, but not actually going to get baited by the stopwatch. And had it for exactly when he needed it. And this could just be Baron for T1.
Oh, most definitely. And I want to see a replay there because Doctom cleansed. And I don't know if I missed that he cleansed something else or if he was too early on the cleanse on the Leona ultimate, because that is not something you can really afford. And T1, this continuous pressure, this constant forcing of the summoners has been working out so well for them. Even though this looks kind of suspect at the beginning because they go in here, Carrier feels forced to flash just to make sure that T1 doesn't have to fight into them. But then this engage coming in here, look at that.
Yeah, and it was weird. It was like he pressed Blade Caller instead of Featherstorm. Almost like it was an odd mistake. But anyway, Helen gets taken down, and basically the beginning of that fight was the fight.
Oh, that was it. Yeah, it was immediately over because that's your main damage source. Victor's way too far forward as a result because you have no pressure whatsoever. You've given up the Sword Point Drake, so now the next one that T1 get is basically very bad news. And also Baron. And now we're getting closer and closer to the point in the game where even if you are the biggest NONGSHIM fan, you're like, this game is probably not going to be it. Because if you look at the item spikes, right? Like, yes, Rich has the Gold Drink Hysterics. That's really good. But so does Zeus, and he has also a Branduin's Omen. And that's like just a
2 levels ahead. Well, it's a level 16 Gnar.
Yeah. So, and that's like the feeling that you get in every single lane, right? Like, it's not bad. Zeus?
Yeah, he might be in a little bit of trouble here as he does get Mega Gnar. There is the Gnar back. It's going to get rid of 3 of them for now. We'll see whether he can move fast enough. They're going to bring an extra person as Hysterics does go off. In he goes once again. That's the double one. The sleep comes down. Zeus is unkillable in this game. What the hell was that? Almost the triple kill there as the Empress Divide gets rid of Rich. He flashes on back in. He wants to try and take down Faker, but he just doesn't have enough damage. It's a double kill for the Azir in the end, and this may just be the game.
Can you get a more perfect introduction to the LCK? What a debut coming out here from Zeus, because that looked like everyone would have forgiven him if he died there, right? Like, it's happened. It
yeah,
happens.
of course.
It's your first game. It's fine. But instead, he turns it around, and T1 is looking a lot better today, Atlas.
I think so too. I think they're onto something with this particular roster, as in goes Faker, looking for a bit of damage there onto Kellen. He's free food. Peanut's going to be the same thing. Sort of like the bag of peanuts that you get when you're on the aeroplane